Hey, my name's King. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a little bit different video in that we're going to be doing a ban and announcement reaction video, quote unquote, hopping on that bandwagon. Anywho, we'll start with standard and then move into alchemy. I'm more interested in the alchemy rebalancing, but we'll take a look at standard as well. See what we got going on. I'm sure you guys have seen it already, but if you're hearing it from me first, All Runs Epiphany is banned. Everyone saw that coming, so that's awesome. Taking turns is never fun for the person who's not taking turns, and Wizards of the Coast just wants to print these kind of cards, and no matter what they do, no matter what mana cost, it always ends up being busted, seems like. So yep, All Runs Epiphany banned, out of there. This next one, I don't know what they were thinking, but Divide by Zero is banned. And I guess we'll kind of read into that a little bit. But yeah, I don't understand why this card. I mean, I get it in pretty much every blue deck. It's pretty much it is a 4 of in every blue control deck. But I think it's a good card and it's not overpowering. I guess for more expensive stuff, it's kind of like a time walk. If someone plays like a 7 mana spell and you bounce it, yeah, you kind of time walk them. But I don't think it's that bad. But yeah, Divide by Zero is out of here, making control matchups a little bit more awkward. I don't know exactly what they're going to do as far as standard goes when it comes to like Hullbreaker Horror matchups, because usually you're really leaning on your divides to be able to, slow the opponent down. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, Divide by Zero is out of there. And then Faceless Haven is banned as well. Saw that one coming. Best card in Kaldheim. The 4/3 Vigilance for 3 mana is really good. And you can fit it into pretty much any 2-color deck. So yeah, Faceless Haven out of there. Legacy, I do follow Legacy a little bit. Ragavan has been just super overpowered. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the matchups, but blue-red Delver is ridiculous at the moment, and Ragavan was the reason that it's ridiculous. Delver's still going to be top king, but with Ragavan out of there, I think I kind of feel like we're back to where we were before Ragavan. So nothing's really changed. There's still some problems with Legacy, but yeah, having this guy out of there, thank God. He was really, really bad. I haven't played Legacy for a while, but I do like watching Legacy, so I think this is a great start by Wizards to ban this guy. Sorry for your $80 monkey pirate, or at least $80 at one time. Historic, Memory Lapse is banned from Suspended. Yep, saw that coming. This card is fun to play with, not fun to play against. Drawing the same thing you just drew just kind of sucks for the opponent. Really, like, just a super annoying counter spell. And then Teferi got reworked, which is kind of cool, and we'll go that a little bit later. So I'm not going to read all of this if you guys want to take a look at it, kind of the reasons they did what they did. But All Runs Epiphany, yep, broken. Faceless Haven kind of broken. Divide by Zero was an interesting read, but if you guys want to go over it, the Wizards of the Coast have it on their website for banned and restricted. Same with Legacy and Historic. But let's go over to Alchemy, the thing that I've been playing for the last month. I kind of want to take a look at it. So it says, since Alchemy's launch, we have been happy with the overall deck diversity in the format. Our intent with this round of changes to better balance the play rates between the top deck while ensuring they all remain viable. We also hope that the minor adjustments to some of the top decks alongside buffs to other cards will allow more decks to compete at the highest level play. Cool. After closely monitoring our first round of Alchemy rebalances, we're happy to report that they had a minimal impact on historic win rates among existing decks. That's pretty cool. No, like, everyone was all up in arms about Alchemy killing Historic, and I guess it really didn't change much. But then again, I don't play too much Historic, so you have to let me know about that. But we understand players' concerns over the future unknowns. Based on that feedback, we'll be weighing the potential Historic impact more heavily in our rebalance decisions, starting with adjustments we're announcing today. As with all balance and card pool changes, We will be carefully watching the metagame evolves. As a result, if we see any signs of alchemy or historic that the changes have unintended impact, we'll move to correct them. If we see that changes have not done enough, we will correct them as well and continue to do so as often as necessary. As we stated before, our goal with Alchemy and Alchemy Rebalances is to keep the format interesting and engaging every time players sit down to play. In addition to the 18 rebalanced cards, we have rebalanced Fairy Time Raveler and updated an Alchemy version that will be legal in historic play in the future. We'll be looking for similar opportunities to rebalance and unban cards currently in historic ban or ban list, with the understanding that we have no intention on rebalancing iconic cards with the significant magic history, e.g. Brainstorm. And before you ask, you will get to keep your wild cards. You will get to keep your wild cards from the original banning. Yeah, it would be kind of really kicking the nuts to unban Teferi, rebalance him, and then steal your wild cards back. So yes, good on you, Wizards. Cool. So nice little read right there. Basically, Alchemy doing exactly what Alchemy was set out to do: make changes in an orderly fashion to keep the format not oppressive and fresh and interesting. I do like the fact that they're looking into historic a little bit more. So I think that's kind of cool, where they can unban some cards. And I know they did that historic event where they they altered a bunch of cards, like Teferi, like Oko, was it Wilderness Reclamation, a couple other things, and they're actually doing it. So cool, good on them. So, January 27, 2020, Alchemy rebalance changes. The two primary goals with this set of changes makes decks centered around venture keyword action less clunky and more reliable at winning games. Okay. Two primary goals: make decks centered around venture keyword less clunky, more reliable. So they just want to make venture a thing. For example, too many venture cards were clustered at 3 mana, and we hope that decreasing the mana of various cards will open up some options around or to build around cards like Nadar and Varus. Yeah, haven't really messed with the venture mechanic because it wasn't really that good. Similarly, by making Triumphant Adventure hit harder, turning Cloister Guardian into 2-mana threat and letting Eliwick ultimate a turn quicker, and having Asarak always create a zombie token. We are aiming for decks built around ventures to win more consistently after completing a dungeon, which I think is a good thing, because if you go through the ass pain of completing a dungeon, I feel like you should win. So hopefully it's a thing. So card buffs, rules adjustment for this one. So I don't think I've seen this in play ever. But it just says removed opponent's option to sacrifice creature on the attack trigger. And it says whenever the Arclich attacks, create a number of 2/2 black zombie creature tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. This used to be, there's a clause in here that allowed the opponent to sacrifice something to not create the 2/2 black zombie creature. I guess that's a buff. Kind of cool, I guess. Sure, why not? Assemble from parts. This isn't Ventures, but I really wanted to play with this because I love Reanimator style decks, but it seemed really bad. But they lowered the mana cost 1, the activated ability that is, but they made it another black pip, so you kind of have to delve deeper into black, which is fine because that's generally what black is known for, black and green at least. So instead of 3 black, it's 1 black. This is still kind of like an awkward card because of this last clause here. Activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, so you can instantly give a target creature in the graveyard, like kind of a Reanimator style effect, but you can only do it as a sorcery. So it's kind of weird. Hopefully it sees some play. Blood Rage Alpha, increased toughness. It's a 4/4 from a 4/3. I don't really see this being, it wasn't really playable to begin with. Now it's just got 1 more toughness. I guess it dodges Frostbite. It's okay. It's an okay wolf. but I don't think toughness was the way to go. There's just so many other things at 4 mana you would rather probably do than play a Blood Rage Alpha. But yeah, okay, there it is. And then they get into the or go back to the uh venture into the dungeon mechanic. So Cloister Gargoyle, they lower the cost and they reduce the toughness. So the cost is a 1 white from a 2 white, and it's an 0-3 from an 0-4. I still don't think it's really playable. You know, maybe if you can just chain off a ton of venture into the dungeon, and it's just a 3-3 flying for 2. It's not that good. I mean, yeah, I still don't think it's playable. This one is actually playable now. It used to cost, so it says removed enters the battlefield tap, which sucked, and then it costs 1 mana to activate from 4 mana. This used to cost 4 mana to venture into the dungeon, and it entered tapped. It's insane. This card was terrible. Um, I opened 4 of them, and I was really pissed when I did. So hopefully, maybe we can actually do something with this. Definitely a lot better. The problem is that, and it still makes it sort of unplayable. It says, tap an untapped legendary creature you control, venture into the dungeon. Activate only as a sorcery. That really sucks. So we still have to tap legendary creature on our turn. Yeah, that one sucks. Maybe it'll see a little bit of constructed, probably not. It's just that clause, activate only as a sorcery, kills the card, in my opinion. Third Planeswalker ability is now a -6 or a -6 from a -7. So starts with 4 loyalty for 4. It's a little bit of a buff. You get an emblem with creatures you control have trample and haste and get +2/+2 for each differently named dungeon you've completed. I still don't think this card is that good. So hopefully it sees something. I mean, 2 triggers and you can ultimate and then hopefully go off and complete a dungeon, because this doesn't exactly complete a dungeon for you, but it does make it a little bit easier. So maybe some play. Fate's Reversal, just lower the cost. So used to cost black from 1 black. It says return up to one target creature card from the graveyard to your hand, venture into the dungeon. I guess that's okay. As a sorcery speed, they're really trying to push the venture into the dungeon mechanic. Even with all these buffs, I just don't know if, getting back a creature card from your graveyard is worth it. We'll see. We will see. Find the Path, rules adjustments. Now adds 2 color of any 1 color from adding green. That's pretty cool. So Enchanted Land, whenever Find the Path enters the battlefield, venture into the dungeon, and then it adds add 2 mana of any 1 color. So some color fixing, some ramp on Enchanted Land. That's actually pretty good. I like that change instead of just green. Puppet Razor. So we're out of the venture dungeon thing. We're back into Alchemy, and they increased the toughness from a 3/3. I still don't think this is gonna see that much play. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard. If you do, you seek a creature card with mana value equal to the mana value of that card +1 that perpetually gains menace. Yeah, I mean, I guess the 4 toughness is nice to keep it on the battlefield, but with dragons being a thing and Dragonfire and every single dragon being a 4/4 at least, it still doesn't really dodge that. I guess it dodges the Frostbite, which is kind of cool. Hopefully it sees something. Precipitous Drop. Is that how you say that? Yep, that's how you say that. So they lower the cost to 1 black instead of 2 black. Enchant creature. When under Precipitous Drop enters the battlefield, venture into dungeon. Enchanted creature gets -2, -2, -2, -2. I'm a math major, so I keep saying negative. It gets -5, -5 instead, as long as you completed a dungeon. If this was like 1 black mana, I would say that's pretty good as a good source of removal. Kind of like, what was it called? The one with it was really good in the Luris deck. I can't remember, but it was 1 black mana, it was enchantment, it was like -2, -2. I think that would have been playable, but still, as it is, one black with just a -2/-2. Triumphant Adventure. This one actually got a really good buff. This card was decent before. It's the Death Touch. As long as your turn has first strike, and when it attacks, venture to the dungeon. So they buffed it from a 2 or from a 1/1 to a 2/1. It's really good. It's definitely a better clock, and it's not something that you can really just ignore anymore. Because usually when people drop this, you're just like, yeah, whatever. You do your venturing thing and hit me for 1. That's fine. But now it's 2, and it's a human, which is pretty good. So maybe there's something there other than just venture. Like maybe you don't put this just strictly in a venture. It's a pretty good card on its own. So definitely a good buff. All right, now moving on to the card adjustments. So instead of banning Divide by Zero, this is why I love Alchemy, we can change it. So it says rules adjustments only learns if it targets a spell or permanent with mana value 4 or less. Okay. So it says we're aiming to promote higher mana value cards in Alchemy. Divide by Zero was stronger as it targeted more expensive cards, and this change will more evenly distribute its power. I still think Divide by Zero is a great card. I still think you're going to see a lot of play with it, but, bouncing back a Goldspan Dragon or a Leer or a Hullbreaker Horror or anything like that, yeah, it loses a little bit of value, but it still does what it does. And I think if its mana value is 3 or less, it would be way worse because there's still a lot of 4 mana value cards that are great to bounce back. So still think it'll see play. I think it's a decent rules adjustment. All right, so moving on. So the Whelp did get nerfed I would say pretty badly. I was hoping maybe instead of, well, let's read it first and we'll go over it. It says now triggers on upkeep from end step and it gangs haste instead. So we were looking to make the explosive starts of Fearsome Whelp easier to interact with. Changing the trigger from the end step to upkeep will give Dex an additional turn of profitably to profitably interact with Fearsome Whelp. Giving Fearsome Whelp haste was a small way to compensate and make it more relevant in combat. Yeah, okay. Flying 1/1 with haste is all right. Sure. Yeah. I was hoping that it would change from each dragon in your hand to like a dragon in your hand. Still keeping the trigger where it is. The same thing happened with Luminarch Aspirant, which kind of dumpstered that card. So this one being the upkeep, I mean, at least we can use sorcery on it, and you can use like fight spells and all that sort of stuff to kind of get the whelp down before it actually does anything. So while I think dragons is still going to be a deck, I don't think they're going to have that explosive. They're going to have a lot less explosive turn 3 plays like the Town Racer Tyrant and all that sort of stuff. So I think this is good. I don't know, maybe it goes a little bit too far, but we'll see. We'll see if dragons will be a deck, but we'll see how badly that hurts because Luminarch Aspirant, like no one plays with it anymore because of that change. So maybe this is just a little too far. Who knows? All right, my favorite one, actually, Hullbreaker Horror, rules adjustment. Removed, this spell cannot be countered. Thank God. I really hated this card. Not because I didn't want to play like against it. It's because I didn't want to play with it. So I like control decks, but I like my win cons to be varied. Any blue deck that I played, I felt like I had to just play Hullbreaker Horror because there was no point. Like my opponent was playing Hullbreaker Horror, so I had to play Hullbreaker Horror, and I hated it. The fact that this can be countered, I think we're gonna see more counter spells in the meta. I think Disdainful Stroke got a lot better. Just being able to interact with this guy, like if the opponent gets it down, yeah, it's probably over. But yeah, let's read what they say. So it says removing the spell cannot be countered will make Hullbreaker Horror easier to interact with, both in the control mirrors and other blue decks. Since blue control decks also have access to Malevolent Hermit, yeah, and Lear, Disciple of the Round, we felt that removing the third instance of can't be countered will make the mirror more fun. This change will also more make aggro control more viable, as cards like Disdainful Stroke can readily interact with the threats in pure control decks. Yeah, I think it's a good change. I do like it a lot. It makes it so I don't have to play Hullbreaker Horror if I want to play a blue control deck. I can do some other, end game shenanigans instead of just Hullbreaker Horror. So I think that I like that change. All right. Moving on to the one we thought would get dumpstered the most, Inquisitor Captain rules adjustment is added if you cast it and or if you cast it and two enters the battlefield abilities. So this change mainly messes with the Glasspool Mimic thing. So let's just read it real quick. We are making it more difficult to overwhelm the board with Inquisitor Captain. The interaction with cards such as Glasspool Mimic and Alchemy and Soul Hoarder, which is I think a flicker at the beginning of your end step. You may exile another creature and return it. Yep. And Historic made it too difficult for creature-based decks to attack advantageously without relying on flying or forcing them to ignore combat altogether. So you can't flicker this. What was the other one? Teleportation Circle doesn't work anymore. Glasspool Mimic works if you cast the Glasspool Mimic. The thing that people were doing, the Esper Clerics deck, is they cast Inquisitor Captain, they'd rip a Glasspool Mimic, and then they'd use that Glasspool Mimic on the Inquisitor Captain and do it again. Can't do that anymore. You can still cast Glasspool Mimic, though, on an Inquisitor Captain that is on the battlefield, and it will work. So it's not like it totally killed it, but it definitely makes it so that they can't chain it over and over and over again, which I think is a great thing. They really left it alone other than that, which I'm super happy about. I like this card. I love playing with this card. It's very powerful, but hey, that's kind of the format Alchemy is at the moment. And yeah, I think it's a good little nerf. It's definitely a very little nerf. We'll see how long it lasts. All right. Moving on, we have Lear, the Disciple of the Drown. It said, add it during your turn to the flashback ability, which kind of kills this card altogether. Yeah. So they say we're aiming to make Lear, Disciple of the Drown, less effective when combined with Fading Hope and Divide by Zero. The two bounce spells are very effective protecting Lear and controlling creatures. This change helps players remove Lear, favorably attack, and interact with the opponent's graveyard on their turn. The thing is Lear says spells can't be countered. So you play Lear, you get your graveyard, they can't do anything. It goes to their turn, you lose your graveyard, and then they do something. They just kill it. They kill it with a spell. So you don't have access to your graveyard, so you can't bounce it back, and you can't counter their spell that they're about to kill it with. So Lear kind of like punches itself in the face in that way. Yeah. So I think Lear's just done. Like I don't think I'll ever run this card ever again. It's just kind of, yeah. I don't think, I mean, you get a little bit of value out of it, but if a person has a removal spell, they just wait for their turn, attack, and if you don't have a bounce spell in your hand, you're done for. So, yeah, kind of killed that card. All right, moving on. Sanguine Brushstroke. Remove Life Gang from sacrificing blood token trigger. I'll say that again. Removed the Life Gang portion, just the Life Gang, from sacrificing the blood token trigger. It just makes, we'll read it really quick. It says, we are specifically targeting how Sanguine Brushstroke matches up against aggressive strategies. We opted to change the Brushstroke Sanguine Brushstroke instead of the Meat Hook Massacre to minimize the impact to Historic and to have less of the deck's power concentrated on a single card. Removing the life gain from the enchantment will allow aggressive decks to focus their answers on the conjured Blood Artist and overall increase their chances of pushing through lethal damage. What this does, I mean, now it's more so like a 3 mana Blood Artist, but when you sacrifice a blood token, each opponent still loses life, so you're doing damage. But it's easier to race against this as the other person playing against it. So it's not so overwhelming with, a blood artist on the battlefield and this on the battlefield, and the person is draining you, but they're not getting as much life, so you have a chance to race it. So, a very nice little nerf. I kind of like it actually. Uh, if they get like two of these on the battlefield and they have a couple of blood tokens, it just you're screwed. So yeah, you'll still be losing a lot of life, but at least you can race them. That's an option. So yeah, pretty good one. Town Razor Tyrant, again, another one everyone thought would probably be dumpstered, and it's not. It says added non-basic as a targeting restriction. Um, it says we are aiming to promote more monocolored decks in Alchemy and provide a few opportunities to play around the dragon's ability. Multicolored decks can include more basic lands and reduce their chances of being denied a specific color of mana and play around the turn 3 Town Razor Tyrants. Interesting, they said we're aiming to promote more monocolored decks in Alchemy. I mean, fair enough. White Life Gang is really, really powerful. I guess mono green isn't doing so hot, but it's weird though because they're nerfing the card that they want monocolored decks to thrive against, and yet monocolor red dragons is the best deck in Alchemy at the moment. So it's kind of interesting. Anywho, I don't think this really does anything. Targeting a non-basic land, um, yeah, targeting a non-basic land doesn't really change anything because 9 times out of 10, I want to take people off of two mana anyways. So, I thought maybe they would change the damage like to 1 damage. But yeah, kind of interesting that they would take such a light, pretty much non-nerf to Town Razor Tyrant. But oh well, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. And then to Fairy, I don't really play Historic, but it is kind of nice to see them looking at Historic and balancing a few things. So it says it's now legal, and it went from a 3 cost to a 2 or 4 cost as a 5 starting loyalty from 4, which is kind of okay. Static ability becomes your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So they still can't counter or do anything like that, but then you can't cast sorceries on their turn or your next sorcery on their turn. So, kind of cool, but I still don't like your opponents can't cast spells on your turn. I think that was the most egregious thing, not being able to cast a sorcery on their turn. So, but 4 mana is pretty hefty for this card. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out. So yeah, overall, I'm really happy with all the rebalancing that Wizards of the Coast has done around Alchemy. I think a lot of these cards definitely needed some buffs. Venture into the dungeon was, a cool idea. Definitely was not executed properly. Hopefully, it'll see some play. And some of these cards that, the Alchemy only cards that probably needed some love, got some love. So it seemed like we're hopefully this is a trend where the buff list here is a lot higher than the nerf list. And a lot of these cards that got nerfed didn't get nerfed completely into the ground. Like everyone was up in arms about Wizards of the Coast. It was a money grab. I don't really want to go super into it, but everyone was so afraid that they were just going to create these powerful cards and then nerf them into the ground and then create new powerful cards that you had to get. It really does look like they're trying to make a healthy format. I'm not trying to just back them up. I know, they do some interesting things. They're a company. They got to make money, I guess. But these changes are not the dumpstering that everyone thought they were going to be. So Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about the alchemy changes, or even the standard changes. I know we didn't touch too much on it. I'm more along the lines of alchemy playing, but I do play some standard every now and then. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a like, give it a subscribe if you want to see more stuff. I do deck techs kind of every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We play a similar deck over the week and kind of tweak it. And I ask the audience for suggestions on cards and stuff like that. So try to keep it interesting. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.